Tonight is a community service of the New York Institute of Technology.
Covering the news of Nassau and Suffolk Counties, Long Island News Tonight with Ken Eckhart, Carol Peck, and the award-winning LI News team.
Good evening. I'm Ken Eckhart, and here's what's happening. Local lawmakers are calling for the passage of legislation that would upgrade our emergency communication systems to provide a unified response to major events. And as Elsa Gillis reports, they'd like to see it passed before the 10th anniversary of 9/11.
It's been almost 10 years since the 9/11 terrorist attacks shook the nation. And in response, a 9/11 commission was formed to analyze the risks leading up to the attacks and discuss how to prevent them in the future. Their report identified deficiencies in the emergency communication system used by first responders during 9/11. And Senator Kirsten Gillibrand says these problems have yet to be fixed.
Firefighters, police officers, emergency medical technicians, and other public safety professionals all communicate on different frequencies and with different systems, creating a barrier to providing a coordinated and efficient response during emergency situations.
Senator Gillibrand stood with County Executive Edward Mangano and Long Island first responders at the Morelli Homeland Security Center in Bethpage to announce their support of the Public Safety Spectrum and Wireless Act that would upgrade the emergency communication system.
I'm calling on Congress today to pass legislation before the 10th anniversary of 9/11 that would provide our first responders and public safety officials with the critical interoperable radio airwaves needed to effectively communicate.
It's a dangerous job. Communication can help and go a long way.
First responders would be able to communicate across jurisdictions, share critical data, and have up-to-date information in real time.
And Gillibrand says the legislation will generate the necessary revenue to develop and deploy this network.
All of our first responders must be able to communicate with each other and do so both efficiently and effectively.
Senator Gillibrand says she feels confident that Congress will pass the legislation without opposition. In Bethpage, Elsa Gillis, LI News Tonight.
Over a dozen adult dogs who endured life in puppy mills in the Midwest are now hoping to find permanent families to adopt them here on Long Island. The dogs were used for breeding purposes at the puppy mills in Nebraska and Missouri. Then, when they outlived their usefulness, were abandoned by their owner. Well, today they arrived here on Long Island at the Save a Pet Animal Rescue and Adoption Center in Port Jefferson, and it's helping to coordinate finding the dogs a forever home so the pets can live the rest of their lives with a loving family. These are just some of the dogs at Save a Pet. Save a Pet is asking to hear from anyone who may want to adopt one of the new dogs, and also donations to help cover the animal's medical costs. You can get more information at their website at www.saveapetli.net. Prosecutors on Long Island have charged a landscaper with mixing hazardous materials into the garden mulch that he was selling to customers. Victor Leota is facing environmental charges as well as scheming to defraud and could face 4 years in jail if convicted. Nassau County prosecutors say Leota Brothers Recycling Corporation sold wood chips being marketed as 100% shredded hardwood. But undercover officers who bought the mulch found it included unauthorized construction waste. Prosecutors claim some of the wood was stained, chemically treated, or glued, and they say other debris included plastic chips, floor tiles, rags, sheet metal, and rubber. Governor Andrew Cuomo has signed into law an extension of federally funded unemployment benefits through next year. Cuomo says the state wouldn't be able to continue to pay a total of 93 weeks of benefits without the legislation and would have forfeited $620 million in federal payments to the unemployed, affecting about 166,000 New Yorkers. New York State has participated in a 2-year federally funded unemployment insurance program since 2009. Congress extended the federal program by an additional year in December. The legislation signed by Cuomo amends New York state law to allow the state to qualify for the additional third year of the program. The United Nations Refugee Agency says the United States continues to lead the Western countries where people are seeking asylum. It says the U.S. receives 1 of every 6 applications and saw an increase last year of 6,500 people, partly due to a rise in the number of Chinese and Mexicans applying. France, Germany, Sweden, and Canada had the next highest numbers of new applications. The largest groups of people seeking political protection last year were from Serbia and Kosovo. Overall, there was a decrease last year in the number of people seeking asylum in the West. It was down 5%. It was an up day on Wall Street today. The Dow was up just over 81 points. NASDAQ was up 26.25 points. And the S&P was up 9.25 points. NYIT's LI News Tonight continues after this.
See a screening of the film Rebel Without a Cause at New York Institute of Technology's D. Seversky Center in Old Westbury on Wednesday, April 6th at 5:30 p.m. For more information, call 516-686-7567. Looking for a place to live? The Long Island Housing and Rental Expo will be held at the Islandia Marriott on Saturday, April 9th from 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. For more information, call Action Long Island at 631-425-2700. The Gilbert and Sullivan Light Opera Company of Long Island and South Shore Syncopators celebrate the music of the 20s and 30s at the Ethical Humanist Society in Garden City on Saturday, April 9th at 8 p.m. For tickets, call 516-795-7745 or cast a line at the Spring Family Fishing Festival at Belmont Lake State Park in North Babylon on Saturday, April 9th from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. For more information, call 631-444-0283. If you have an event you'd like included on the LI News Tonight community calendar, send it to linewstonight@nyit.edu.
Press play to start your future. Learn the industry. Use the technology. Become an expert in television reporting, journalism, radio, digital film, public relations and advertising, television production, digital graphics, a beautiful state-of-the-art campus, a road to the job you've always wanted, in the media capital of the world. Communication Arts at NYIT. When can you start?
In world headlines today, international leaders are struggling to figure out how to get Muammar Gaddafi to quit and end Libya's political crisis. At a conference in London, British Prime Minister David Cameron accused the Libyan leader of shooting and starving his opponents into submission. Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton is calling on leaders to speak with a single voice and isolate Gaddafi. Italy's foreign minister says several nations are behind a plan to swiftly end the conflict, exile Gaddafi, and set up talks on Libya's future between tribal leaders and opposition figures. France is taking an even more forceful tone. Its defense minister suggests airstrikes could target Libyan politicians. Japan's prime minister says that country is handling its nuclear crisis in a state of maximum alert. The spread of radiation is raising concerns about the ability of experts to stabilize the crippled reactor complex. Highly toxic plutonium also has been found in soil outside the plant. With the triple punch of an earthquake, tsunami, and damaged nuclear plant, the Japanese prime minister says the country is grappling with its worst problem since World War II. More than 11,000 bodies have been recovered, but the final death toll is expected to exceed 18,000. And American Ballet Theater has returned to Moscow for the first time since the 1960s and since the defection of Mikhail Baryshnikov, who brought his star power to the U.S. company. Tonight, the American Ballet Theater opened a 3-night run at the Bolshoi Theater, the company Baryshnikov was touring with when he defected from the Soviet Union in 1974. Artistic director Kevin McKenzie says the U.S. dancers feel the pressure of performing in a country with such a rich ballet tradition. What the U.S. company brings to Russian audiences, he says, is versatility and an ease with changing styles. The American Ballet Theater last performed in Moscow in 1966, after making its first appearance in 1960. Well, if you're suffering from watery eyes and a runny nose, your symptoms may be caused by spring allergies. And doctors say all the snow we had this past winter could make this allergy season rougher than usual, as Tara Evans reports.
Budding trees, greener grass, blooming flowers. All signs of spring that usually bring excitement, especially after a snowy winter.
Like the one we just had. Snowmageddon.
But for allergy sufferers, Dr. Philip Perlman of St. Francis Hospital in Manhasset says this spring may not bring excitement at all. In fact, he says, spring will likely pack a harder punch than usual and arrive sooner.
Because of the snowfall, I think allergy seasons are going to be more in bloom, and it's going to come on really quick.
It has already begun. The hoarseness, the eyes watering, I feel like I need some windshield wipers for my eyes.
I've seen patients already complain about their watery eyes, their congestion, their stuffy sinuses, and personally, I'm starting to see seasonal allergies affecting myself as well.
Although some patients have already begun experiencing allergy symptoms, Dr. Perlman says there are some things allergy sufferers can do to ease their discomfort or even prevent serious attacks.
Antihistamines, the nasal steroid sprays, and the nasal irrigations, the washes, to get rid of all the pollen.
Sinus rinses in the morning, sinus rinses when I come in the afternoon, especially when I come in the afternoon. You know, getting rid of those other environmental things is so important to keeping me upright.
If you're experiencing allergy symptoms, even if for the first time, they say the best advice they can give you is, when in doubt,
just see your doctor. And if you follow his advice, you'll be fine. Don't let yourself suffer. It's pointless.
In Manhasset, Tara Evans, LI News Tonight.
The Supreme Court is questioning a massive sex discrimination lawsuit on behalf of at least 500,000 women, claiming that Walmart favors men over women in pay and promotions. But the justices suggested that they are troubled by lower court decisions allowing the class action lawsuit to proceed. Justice Anthony Kennedy said he's unsure what the unlawful policy is that Walmart engaged in to deprive women of pay increases and promotions comparable to men. Billions of dollars are at stake in the case. Class actions create pressure on businesses to settle claims and create the potential for large judgments. Walmart denies it discriminates against its female employees. And an upstate New York company that makes church candles is worried about cheap candles from China flooding the U.S. market. Senator Charles Schumer recently visited the Cathedral Candle Company in Syracuse and released a letter urging Commerce Secretary Gary Locke not to open any tariff loopholes, making it easier for Chinese candle importers to undercut domestic manufacturers. In the 1980s, the Chinese were selling candles so cheaply in the U.S. that domestic manufacturers were buying up the imports to melt them down for wax. Then the U.S. Commerce Department enacted tariffs on Chinese imports that leveled the playing field for U.S. manufacturers. Well, we had a sunny day today, but it was still cooler than usual. The high was in the upper 40s. Tonight, mostly clear with a low in the mid-30s. Tomorrow should be mostly sunny with a high around 50 degrees. Then for Thursday, mostly cloudy, a high around 50. Friday, rain is expected with a high around 40. And the outlook for Saturday, a mix of rain and snow possible with a high around 40 degrees. And that's it for NYIT's LI News Tonight. I'm Ken Eckhart. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good night. Yeah, there was some nice editing, especially at the end.